episode is Brian Singh Presents. I'm joined by Jen, Jen, what is your book again?
Marketing is Mind Control. It's on Amazon.
Okay. Who is also an author, by Brian Bowden, who is also an author and a musician and so many other things, and by Brian Singh, who goes by Solarby, but he is an entrepreneur of the epic kind. Brian, you want to say hello?
Hi. Yeah, I'm feeling like a beaten down entrepreneur dealing with the banking system. And I want to share maybe some tips with the audience here in some context, which I think is of interest to everybody. The banks right now are in serious trouble. And the commercial real estate market has tanked. So much of their loans and investments out there are based on commercial real estate. We've seen what happened in the wake of the 2008 crisis. I mean, we saw
Yeah.
how bad it just hit Silicon Valley, in 2001 when the dot-com crash, industry crashed briefly, the bubble when it first tanked in 2001. And you saw, what happens to the banks in the area when they're leveraged to the hilt. And then there's all sorts of other shady investments that they've taken part in over these decades that haven't paid out, or they've already siphoned out the money. And so they're using any reasons or excuses they can under the sun to hold on to people's money or to shut down people's bank accounts like they did. It is more internationally in Vietnam recently, when apparently
Yes.
people refused to bow to their digital ID regime that also the UK is trying to bring in with strength. And so in a situation, that I saw recently, someone moved, fairly substantial amount of money from cryptocurrency that they legally acquired and was theirs, and they converted it into US dollar, and they moved it from a legal exchange, crypto exchange, into first a credit union, which I would have thought would be better. But if you're moving large amounts of money, especially based from cryptocurrency, generated from crypto gains, into non-crypto friendly banks, which the majority of them are, they will eye that money with suspicion. And if
Mm-hmm.
it's large enough amounts, it falls automatically into categories like, oh, is this human trafficking or weapons
Right.
or
National
cartel
security.
money? Yeah, exactly. Like, are you a weapons trafficker? What is going on? It's like, no, we made money off of cryptocurrency. We want to convert it into cash, and we'd like to spend it, please. And then they're saying, oh, well, prove it. How did you get it? And this and this and that. Even when a lot of proof has already been provided, they'll still use any excuse to freeze your funds. And while they're freezing your funds, they could be trading on that money, lending it out
Exactly.
many, many times over. And every day that they hold your millions of dollars that they're refusing to release to you, they're making tons of bucks. And most people, this is where I fear for a lot of the people out there in crypto land who have either done well by Bitcoin or are looking to do well by, say, XRP, and whatever it is. Okay, none of this is financial advice. Okay, I'm not a financial guy. I'm an entrepreneur who's been beaten down by the banking system, and I want to share with you the damage report so that you can avoid this, and also learn how to fight back and put pressure. These are things that I'm learning from some world-class attorneys, very wealthy people who know what they're talking about. And this is where, even after you filled out the Know Your Customer, KYC, and CIS customer information sheet forms, and you've provided everything up and down, and they're still freezing your money, this is where getting high-powered attorneys involved who know, hey, okay, bank, you're holding on to this person's money. We want to report on what you're doing with that money, because if you're trading against it, you're using it to trade, and without the customer's permission, then you could be in violation of X, Y, and Z. So now you're getting potentially the IRS involved. There are people who have connections to the U.S. The Department of Justice, USA attorneys, and also people with like the U.S. Treasury's department, who they can literally go to the bank, and they, because of the feds, they have the ability to say to the bank, hey, I want to see what's going on with this account for this person. Why are you holding their money? Now, because in our case, obviously, we're totally above board. We're happy to get these people involved to put pressure on the bank, get the feds to do their job, right, to free up money that the bank is trying to steal from us, but um, there's lots of things that I've learned about the banking system and what to do and what not to do in hindsight. So I hope this is helpful.
Yeah,
So if
I
someone
never
is
trusted
going to,
cryptocurrency myself. I don't have enough money to invest in cryptocurrency anyway. I'm lucky to just have enough money to, navigate and eat.
so I have a question for you, Brian, and that is that that there's the cryptocurrency unfriendly banks. How do you find out if your bank is cryptocurrency friendly, so to speak? How would you know
So
that?
I think the vast majority of banks are crypto unfriendly.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say
Yep.
there are a lot of people out there who are, they like go to consciouscrypto.com. I think that's the name of it. It's led by Jace Rose and Alexis Rose. They do conscious crypto and investing. There are, um, I'm speaking with a meeting with the people who just started up Medici Bank, and they're using that name in part because they literally have a Medici family member, the Italians,
Oh, wow.
as part of their bank, and they're going for a more modern, crypto-friendly online banking approach, versus a lot of the other banks who, they're stodgy and they don't know about crypto and they're not savvy, so they're more likely to pull the, oh, we don't know what's going on with this money, we're going to have to freeze it card. Whereas
Mhm.
say Medici Bank, I think, as there might be more, they're still new, okay, so I'm kind of giving them a shout out here, but so I know they're more established with like the corporate online, and then as far as personal banking, I'm not sure how far along they've developed that yet, but that I believe they are in the process of all that. But take
But
this with a grain of salt. I've only met with them
yeah.
once so far.
And then people would need to do their own research before they ever transfer money into any bank then, because of this does exist, and there's only a few that are crypto friendly at this point. And the reason I'm asking is that I know very few younger people, even in my family, that have not invested in crypto because
Same here.
they're not afraid of it. It's us old
It is
stodgies
for
that are
sure.
afraid of what's going to happen with crypto. So there's quite a bit of crypto out there because of that. And so it's good to know that.
And when it comes to crypto, I recommend huge caution. Like there's only,
Mhm.
for me, and again, this isn't financial advice, but just looking at it as a non-crypto layperson, also trying to say, okay, how does this work, and learning from, people who have been more involved with it and know what they're doing. Um, and even then, they all urge caution, of course.
Mhm.
We've seen the rise of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is kind of like the first mover, but their backbone, it's not that great. I mean, there's much better, faster ways of doing the registering and and making it secure. But it's first mover, a lot of money's been put in it, a lot of values there. It does have transactional usage because, a lot of times people are happy to transact in Bitcoin versus US dollar. And
Mhm.
Bitcoin has done well historically, obviously, from the days it was a couple bucks to now, like, even though it's only at $109,000 or something like that, a Bitcoin now, it's hit like as high as 120,000. And, that adds up quite a bit. In terms of, oh, go ahead, Brian.
As someone who did work in banking, Wall Street for close to 30 years, I distinctly remember coming across Bitcoin when it first came out, and it was 1 for 1 at that point. And I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, this sounds interesting, but you want me to give real money and I'm going to get fake money? And I was like, no. Normally on an investment at that point, you do like $1,000, which is, for a worker, that's still a little bit high, but it's worth the risk at certain points. But I didn't like the illusion of fake money in a computer, and there's too many technical issues and hacking. Boy, did I regret that.
And
But
now, yeah,
but there are ways of getting your money quicker. Instead of going, and you had a good idea going to a local credit union. They treat people better.
Yes, we do.
no,
no,
this is
no,
what I learned.
initially-
But initially,
I'm just gonna say-
but what I learned is it was such a huge deposit. It probably
So
totaled so much of their deposits as a credit
Yeah,
union. They're
it's-
like,
it
they
scares
don't
the
want to
hell
let
out
go
of
of
them.
your money. Yeah,
Right, they have a
Well,
lot of
yeah.
requirements. They have banking requirements. They have to keep a certain percentage to cover FDIC, and that's been lowered too, which is one of the main problems we have. But if you're going to lose a large, you move a large amount of that kind of money. My suggestion to you is to do it through an investment bank. Open up an investment account. They're used to seeing this, and then you could still draw off the investment account. You're probably going to get about 5.5% return interest on your money. It'll be pretty quick, and then you slowly trickle it into a local bank from the investment bank. So now they're used to dealing. I mean, we did a $1 billion deal. We did the Google IPO, which I tried to get fired for because I wanted to buy some stock, but I was the guy that made sure the trades go through, and I was dealing with the computer end of it. That's how you get around the large sums, even in your own personal bank. If they know I've had an account with a bank, Chase, and when I was given money for my father's estate, they held on to it longer than they should have. And I kept coming in there. I'm like, this is BS. You're an investment bank. Where's my money, and where's the interest you're giving me on
so
that
that
money?
was that was an investment bank, and they were still messing with you
Mhm.
there, Brian.
Yeah. Yeah. But this was pre like everybody knowing more about crypto. This is a while ago.
Okay.
Yeah, you gotta understand who's used to dealing with large quantity of money and big transfers, and those are the big, like the top 5-10 investment banks, like Franklin Templeton, I dare I say BlackRock, State Street, and some of the boogeymen of the planet. They're used to that stuff, but it really becomes difficult. And I'm with you. I'm with all those people in, I think it was Vietnam. Be very weary of the digital ID. It's not a good thing. It's really bad.
Mhm.
And I've been saying it for a while. Like there is a difference between 45 and 47. And 47 has put in place with the big, beautiful bill, all the things you need to implement social credit score. Just so you know. So if you don't think digital ID is going to try to be pushed here, I believe Utah or one of these states in the Midwest is now toying with digital ID, maybe Wyoming. Fight it. You do not want digital ID. Not one bit. There's no need for it.
But Brian, wasn't Real ID part of all of that?
Well, that is the stepping stones. There's a couple of people out there speaking the truth, and they get buried in the list. But I mean, what should have been done, and I've said this a long time ago, if you're a U.S. citizen, you can get something called a passport, and then you can get a passport card that should prove your citizenship, and that could have been used for, you could have added an element of driver's license to the passport card saying my driver's license connected. That definitely tells who's a citizen, who isn't, and who has the right to vote and who doesn't. But I think some of the chaos that we're seeing where they're giving all these illegals driver's licenses, they purposely are doing it so they can get them to vote and create the chaos, which is going to force normal people to say, we need a digital ID to make sure. See how they work. They caused the problem. They already had the solution. It's going to be digital ID, and you're all going to be monitored and whatever. And then they force you into, we need a solution. When what we really need now is, and I'm going to say it right now, we need to go 1776 on the current administration's all of them. It's government. We don't need them. And I think everybody's pretty tired of being taken advantage of, as the case Brian is with, trying to do his business, and he deals with a higher end of things, and it's not fair to him because he's losing opportunity.
Yep.
Me and lots of other people are just
Wow.
sitting, dying on the vine as the banks just slurp it up.
Yep, making money
God.
on your money.
Well, you know what, Brian? I love you. I love you tremendously. I do. And I found your thing on, I was going to talk about this today. I found this on your Facebook and I actually managed to download it, which was a miracle.
Chair, a high-tech looking dentist chair surrounded by like speakers and all sorts of equipment, and they would beam sound and frequency and music at people and energetically hit them or shock them. They did many time travel shenanigans. What happens is you create a split timeline, and then the Montauk Project, or Project Phoenix here, explains a lot of the Mandela effects for why things are different. I remember in a Bible, for example, it used to be the lion shall lay down with the lamb. If you go to the Bible now, it says the wolf shall lay down with the lamb.
Yep.
And that's in print. And I'm like, wait a second. It's one thing to change it on the internet, but in print, on my bookshelf, no. So the Mandela effect is very, very much real.
So I wanted to talk about a couple of things. I went to see Jesse Beltran. I hardly ever go anywhere except if I'm driving from one state to another. And I went to Jesse's outing, and Jesse Beltran specializes in Havana syndrome, and he also has implants in him, which are governmental issued implants. And he just did a documentary with Billy Carson. He also was on Alex Jones' show doing the testing to see if Alex had implants in him. He said that there's like a silicone based. He's finding it's in everyone. I went and I got tested, and I think it's in all of us because of the food, the water, the air. So it's basically been tainted and poisoned. But something happened to me when I was there, of course, because who I am. And also when I traveled from Atlanta, Texas to Atlanta, Georgia, I believe I traversed a timeline. And I'd had visions in 2017 where I saw Trump get shot, but he was okay. I saw him in the White House a second time. I also saw World War III, and I saw a civil war. Okay, so when I traveled from Atlanta, Texas to Atlanta, Georgia, I traveled through a hurricane, essentially. I got there on a Tuesday, and I did the show, Awake Nation, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday, I moved into the space that I was in, and that's when Trump got shot. And I also noticed when I went to go get my driver's license, because I was in Georgia and I needed to get it renewed, but I couldn't get it renewed, that my husband, my first husband, Steve Zenos, whose name means stranger, he died on July 13th, the same day that Trump got shot. Okay, so none of this transpired until I moved from Atlanta, Texas to Atlanta, Georgia, which is where Stranger Things are filmed. So we go fast forward. And I'm seeing a lot of different time divergencies. And there's an individual who we have on our show. His name is Jerome Corsi. I just love this guy. He's known Trump for like 45 years. He's just a prolific writer. He talks about some conspiratorial things as well. But I see him on the show and I'm like, I say to David, I think Corsi is in a phone booth, right? And he just went up through a horrific divorce because Mueller, was it Mueller that tried to put him in jail? I think that's the individual who is now who now has memory problems, right? And so he destroyed his marriage, he destroyed his finances, and he just went through a divorce court. But before that, he came on. He said he was at the Harvard Club and he was talking to us. And I said to David, I think he's in a phone booth, right? Dr. Who used a phone booth, right, for time travel. But the thing was that I'd seen it all before. I'd seen this before, like it happened before. So I asked David, has Corsi ever been on our show before and calling in from a phone booth? He was using his phone, right? His smartphone in a phone booth that actually had a phone in it. Okay. And so I say, did this happen before? And he says, not that I know of. And I say, Corsi, have you ever been on the show before calling in from a phone booth? He's like, no. But I saw this all happen. I think there's some things that are happening in these timelines, which could be converging timelines. It could be some kind of a Mandela effect, right?
It could be,
Um,
and that for you personally, Penny, that could also just be deja vu. It doesn't have to be the whole timeline shifting around you. It could be
right.
you're, in a way, timeline surfing, because a lot of people
Yes.
can see
That's what I
down
said.
different timelines.
That's what I said. I said, this feels like deja vu. However, when Dan Bursch talked about the looking glass, he was there with his girlfriend and she said, I feel deja vu. And he looked mortified because he said that's timelines. That's a problem with the timelines. That's why you're
Yep.
having the deja vu. So that was from Dan Bursch.
That's
So
timelines bouncing back and forth between each
right.
other. So you have two separate forces trying to force one timeline in and another. And it's instantaneous. And that's usually what's taking place with the deja vu.
I'm having
It
it a
could be
lot.
the timelines, or it could be you and your other in another timeline kind of switching for a split second, like click, like glitching.
Right. The things that
So,
I saw in 2017 actually happened 7 years later. The visions that I had happened 7 years later when I moved from Atlanta, Texas to Atlanta, Georgia, which is where Stranger Things is actually filmed. So that was confusing. So this weekend I went this last weekend I went to go see Jesse and they did this frequency thing. It was like a frequency bath. And Jesse woke up looking dazed. He's a hypnotist, but woke up looking dazed and said he just saw something coming at him like Baltimore. And I saw something too. I was expecting to see pretty auras and stuff like that, but I didn't. I saw a red thing with black, like some kind of a thing that's blocking.
Sounds like
But
attachments, like implant. There's going to be etheric implants. A lot of people talk about black box and red cube technology.
right. That's what I saw. I saw black and then red also.
Yes.
And
Brian, can you expand on that a little bit? Because I got that same vision before Penny did a couple of weeks before.
So black box technology or black cube technology is generally related to Saturnian cube technology, because the Illuminati, the Luciferians, the Satanists, they equate Saturn and Satan quite a lot. Okay, and the black cube is kind of a representation of, an unnatural, and generally an unnatural shape. You don't find generally perfect cubes in nature, right? And being black, it's on the darker evil side. And this technology could be related to these different groups that practice certain types of magic, or astral
right. That's
type
exactly what we thought.
etheric technology that they can then implant on you. So even though, when people hear implants, they think a physical implant that gets like
Right.
like shoved up your nose or something like that, but it's more, it doesn't have to be physical. You can have etheric or astral implants, or interdimensional implants that most people wouldn't be able to see in the physical, but then someone who's sensitive, they can see it. And then you can talk to another person who's sensitive, not say anything, and they'll see the same thing on the person. So I've done that, before in the community. We're like, okay, I'm pretty sure this person's got that kind of attachment, because when I asked two different psychically gifted people, on a blind basis, they give me the same answer.
Now, can you expel that? Because it took me about 5 minutes to expel it.
Okay,
Yes,
so
because
you want to get,
I wanted to say what we have seen lately, Brian, and I'm going to ask both the Brians. What we've seen lately is we've seen chaos, misunderstanding with people's words, wrong people coming in, but it turns out to be the right person, or just a lot of, and this has transpired in the last month, just mass chaos on the planet.
So
Anyone
the
want to
couple
address that?
things. Yeah, so the couple things. One is in general, most people think we go through our lives just, hey, it's just me and my own body and my own mind doing my own thing. And most people they'll have no idea of how many outside influences and entities there are who are trying to affect us, and then implants on top of that, which are already stuck inside of us, either energetically and or physically, and then being, you know, controlled. We're being manipulated some way through those implants inside of us. So there's a lot of spiritual work that we all need to do to be able to put on the helmet of salvation, the armor of God, and screen out all negative outside influences. Positive angelic influences, God's source, our higher selves, guides that who are in alignment with um, no conflicting agendas. Okay, for our highest, greatest good of all concerned. That that you have to be able to figure out who are the friendly guides and who are the imposters. Okay, and if most people don't necessarily have the ability to ourselves remove the implants, maybe if you're strong at meditation and you can practice white magic or protection and prayer, I see that as all being consistent. Then perhaps you can remove these attachments. Otherwise, I recommend going to, experts in the field. And people are like, well, who are the experts? Like, can you get certified for, entity and attachment removal? I don't know who's certified out there. I just know who I personally would recommend, but buyer beware. It's up to each and every person to make your own decision, and it's your own situation. So you get to suffer your own, or be rewarded by your own consequences. I recommend Christopher S. Jacobs and Joanna Michaels of thelifting.net, who we've had here on the show. I also recommend Sean Bond of the psionicleague.com. Those are people who they've themselves been in the programs. They are psychically gifted. They have positive spiritual guides, and they've got great discernment, and they've got great track records in our community. And so that's where I would send people to start a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I think one of these things that Penny brought back is that when she was scanned, and this is Jesse scanned everybody that went to that seminar. And initially, he could only detect nanotech that was turned on. And then he has the machine that will detect it when it's off, because it will turn it on enough to find it. And he was blown away because he found it in everyone. Those
Yes.
people who thought,
It's
the
impossible
people
to avoid. But
Yeah.
this is so what you want to do is you want to protect yourself physically and spiritually and mentally.
Right.
And the way you do that is you want to cleanse yourself of as many parasites, heavy metals, and nanotech as you can. Okay, without hurting yourself, because a lot of people, they rush out to do these parasite cleanses and detoxes, and they don't necessarily approach it in the right way. They don't have the right experts. They don't have detection mechanisms like what this guy's got. If he's able to zap them enough to make them detectable, then he's definitely onto something there to find the inactive or the less detectable nanotech. A lot of people, if you go online, there have been a lot of posts where people, if the post is real, shows that nicotine destroys nanotech, and they
Yes.
show a
I
slide
actually
with some
I
of
do a
these.
nicotine patch.
Right, and so I recommend don't smoke, people. Nicotine patches is
No.
nicotine gum.
Patches.
Okay, patches, gum. There's a post, is again anecdotal, but someone's saying they're online. I shared the post recently on my Facebook page. There you go, Brian, the stogie. They
Couple other things too.
yeah, exactly. They said that their father had Parkinson's and was declining very badly mentally, and this person put her father on the patch for like 2 weeks, and 2 weeks later he's starting to cognitively recover and his tremors are going away. Okay, now that's anecdotal, but then we see the slides. It shows nicotine destroying nanotech.
Yes.
Heavy metals, if you can get rid of a lot of the heavy metals that can be associated with a nanotech, and the nanotech kind of uses heavy metals that we eat, and are contaminated food and drink, and the contaminated water falls down us and the chemtrails and things like that. Heavy metal cleanses can help taking out like the lead and cadmium and trying to get mercury out of your body. All of that is really good to do. And then with the heavy metals, there's also the parasites.
Right.
And then when they go to parasite cleanse, a lot of them, they don't use binders, which is kind of like kitty litter soaking up all the parasite poop when they lice as you cleanse them, because the stuff that people take, like black walnut hull or ivermectin, great, it'll kill the parasites. But now if you don't have the binders to soak up the toxins when they blow up, you might actually
You're gonna get sick.
Yeah, and that's called some people refer to that as the Herxheimer effect.
Yeah, you're going to get sick for a long while. Eventually, it will leave your system because it's being forced out. But there are, like Brian was saying, there's a couple of binders, and it's a lot of
So what would
supplements.
the binders be?
Like Slim Hut,
bromine.
activated charcoal, I think
Yeah.
chlorella with lots of chlorophyll will bind the stuff. Taking baths like bentonite clay and Epsom salt and alfalfa. A lot of the nanotech, apparently, it's attracted to our blood, the hemoglobin in our blood. And when you take a bath with alfalfa is very rich in chlorophyll, which is very similar in chemistry to our hemoglobin groups in our blood. And so a lot of the nanotech people report you take a hot bath with all the bentonite clay, salt, Epsom salts, and alfalfa. And if you shine a UV black light, you can see on some people are really badly infested with Morgellons disease, some of these nanotech nanowire type parasites. You'll see them swimming out of the body and into the alfalfa.
Oh,
Another
my
thing
goodness.
is they make some foot detoxing pads.
Those are great.
You can get them over. A lot of it's done through the Asian area of the world. They use them all the time.
And
You put 'em
Amazon,
on-
you can grab them on Amazon.
get
The
'em on
bamboo
Amazon.
foot pads, detoxing foot
Yeah.
pads are great. Yes.
I would love
What do you
for
do with
people to
them?
you put them on your feet, and you can put socks and go to sleep, and I guarantee you what starts out as white will be blacker than black by the time you wake up, because all the poisons go through your soul.
And then at first
cool.
I'd be like,
That's
okay, is
funny.
this for
They go through
real?
your soul.
Yeah, but then at first you might be like, are these real, or are these just like charcoal pads that turn dark anyway? But then what
Right.
you'll find is as you use them over the course of the days, the mornings go by, the pads are going to get less black and dark
Yeah.
and crappy
And
as
you're
you
going to feel
go.
better. Right. You could also
Okay, so
use
we've got to try that. We've got to try that.
castor oil. You can put a couple of drops of castor oil inside your belly button, black seed oil
I
in
heard
your
that
belly
too.
button, and rub it in the belly button. Another thing you should do, this is great for everybody because
Write
a lot
these
of this
down.
stuff causes inflammation. You need multiple magnesium oil. So there's a multiple mixture. There you go. And do yourself
Put
a
it
favor,
on your
rub it on
feet.
the sole of your feet before you go to bed. And any place that have if like your shoulders bother you, rub it in there, and that will help pull out all the toxins and the inflammation, and you will sleep like a baby. You'll feel totally different. It's a little bit
Are you gonna
weird.
smell like a fish?
No, I mean a lot of the magnesium oil now they do a mist, so it's just light and it softens your skin to begin with, or they do a
Well, I
cream
thought you were
base.
talking about the castor oil.
Oh, the castor oil? No, you just 3 drops in the belly button, because that gets to where your umbilical cord used to be to feed
Right.
you, and it goes right to everything in your body with besides the blood goes into your intestines. And all these diseases that come out is all intestinal related. That's why they want you to cleanse. You have parasites in there. Anybody has like eczema or psoriasis or nervous conditions, shingles, cleanse out. Go for a high colonic if you can.
Guess
A
what,
little
people?
bit weird, but you'll feel better.
When I was young, we used to deworm their animals by taking raw garlic and chopping it up and putting it in a little ball of hamburger and feeding it to them.
Yeah.
And we do that once a month because back then it was the easiest way to deworm the animals.
Yeah, you can deworm human beings too, and I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. If you eat the tobacco of a cigarette and you eat it, you
Okay.
consume it, you're going to kick out some parasites. You're going to be very surprised. You're not going to feel very well.
Now that's what you want,
afterwards.
and that's assuming you got organic, good, pure tobacco, not your Marlboro cigarette. That could
Oh,
kill
No,
you.
yeah.
no.
Not
Like
the regular.
organic tobacco, but
Organic tobacco.
that's a quick
Yeah.
way to unparasite your body if you're like stuck in. Military talks about it. There's a survival guide that the military uses, and all the stuff is basically in there. They don't want the average Joe or citizen to use it. Something I saw of recently, and it came to me way back when we used to have lead paint, and everybody said, "Oh my God, it's so bad for you. It's bad for you." But is it truly bad for you? Because what was happening is when you paint your home, the interior with lead paint, none of these Wi-Fi wires can get it to you. So they needed a way to get to each and every one of you with the
Lead
transmission.
paint shields.
Yep. So
Yeah,
they
'cause
said,
we
"Ooh,
have
lead
lead pencils.
poisoning." Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't
we have lead
eat
pencils in
chips.
school.
Right.
We-
But
It
if
was
you
all
can-
about eating paint chips. We were eating so
Yeah.
much paint from the walls that it
Really?
was so bad
Well,
for us.
that's what they said, but I'm thoroughly convinced they got rid of lead paint because
It's
they
like
didn't
I
want you
just
in a
told on
Faraday
myself I was
cage.
eating paint chips.
Yeah, I mean, you can still find the substance that they put in to make lead paint, but
Now, before we go, because this has been a very interesting show. It took a turn places I didn't think it was going to. But I'm
eat
going
lead
to leave.
chips and
We have a couple of minutes. I just want to play a couple of things from
sure.
The X Files. Okay, one is and we're going to come back to this subject because this subject's never over.
Oh yeah, because Penny,
so-
I wanted to say one last thing. The parasites also open people up to being more easily possessed or influenced by outside
Does it make
influences.
so? Do you think because the world is full of parasites and also the witches there was the whole thing where the witches prayed against or did a spell against Charlie Kirk? I think that there's a rise of the witches, and I think that's why we're having a chaotic time right now on
That's
this
part of
planet.
it. They're part of
We're
it.
praying against that
Yes,
and
They're-
trying to
they're- they're-
elevate the frequency.
I'd say that they're part of it. And then there's a really amazing Thomas Meyer out of Germany has a group of psychic sensitive people, and they tune into things like disease and the biological experiment where you have to roll up your sleeves. And when they tune in, they've detected what Rudolf Steiner has he referred to them as Asuric beings. A lot of these are negative, kind of lower vibration beings. And then in a lot of this transhumanism stuff, they're not the older kind of like
Mhm.
Latin speaking, reverse Latin speaking demons
Right.
of old. They're more techno glossy, shiny, metallic type, like alien tech negative beings associated with some of these transhumanism technologies. And so purging a lot of this stuff, it's this, the physical is a reflection of the spiritual. And so
Right.
you know, it all goes together. As above, so below. The demonic type lower energies affecting us in different fields. That's kind of like the higher spiritual, and then the parasitic stuff and the disease in our bodies here in the physical. It's a physical manifestation of that, and they go together.
Absolutely. I'm going to play one clip from The Lost Art of Forehead Sweat, where they're talking about the Mandela effect, and they're actually attributing it to Joseph Mengele.
Manipulate memory creates unlimited power. Political, economical, cultural, runs the gamut from Holocaust denial to corporate product recognition. There are companies who are willing to pay anything, do anything, to have people forget that their products explode on impact or suddenly catch fire. Companies like G spending billions in profit to repress these memories. The only thing I haven't been able to do is to figure out how they're doing it.
They can't. I'm sorry, but this is ridiculous. I mean, the Mandela effect is simply...
It's the Mengele effect, guys. It's the Mengele effect. Just say it.
The Mengele
is
effect,
simply
as in Joseph Mengele.
people misremembering stuff.
But maybe this is actually evidence of a parallel universe.
Wait,
what?
So maybe these differences in collective memories are actually evidence of our universe somehow becoming intertwined with another, if not identical, then very similar universe. So people's memories are correct. They're just remembering something that happened in another dimension. Hence the discrepancies. That's science, Scully.
Theoretical science at best, Mulder.
Yeah, we're not gonna do this parallel universe sci-fi gobbledygook nerd boy, okay? So just please drop it, because that crap gives me a headache.
It's a lot better than some evil entity zapping people's brains with a hypno ray gun.
I never mentioned a hypno ray gun.
Guys, it's faulty memory because Occam's razor.
That's Ozzy's razor, not Occam's. It's always been Ozzy's razor.
Maybe in a parallel universe it is, but in still yet another universe it's perhaps known as Occam's axe.
It's not parallel universes!
Okay, so that is from the X-Files.
I got to say one thing. When they talk about Mangala was involved, as far as I know, from my sources, with the Montauk Project. He literally was involved with the time travel programs by MK Ultra abusing and splitting people mentally, and then sending them through time travel portals to mess up our timelines. And so it actually attaching Mangala's name to the Mandela effect is kind of appropriate.
Yes, they were saying that's one. I watched this episode. It came out January 6th, I believe. My two husbands had died by then. My first husband, Steve Zenos, died July 13th, 2017. My second husband died January 6th. These are very auspicious dates, but I wasn't told until January 16th, which was actually my first husband's birthday. Okay, they died within 6 months of one another. And the X-Files, the last season, came out, I think, January 3rd. And that's their last season. And my husband looked like David Duchovny. So I'm like, well, of course, because, David Duchovny, because, Mulder just died. So they can't have another season without him. And so I had been in the throes of questioning everything at that point. And I looked a whole lot like Irene Schoenbein, who married Joseph Mengele. And some of my family members, my brother David, looked like Rolf. So I'm still trying to discover things, what happened to me. But I believe I was involved in some time travel projects. I can't prove anything. I got erased about 1 billion times, but the time travel thing is real. They also have technology that is real. I don't know that Looking Glass is even working anymore. Do either of you know?
Looking Glass was acquired. All the 3 components were acquired by President Trump back in his first term, and I don't know if it is still operational, but Trump was pretty darn accurate with a lot of his predictions.
Did Trump time travel because we have the books by Ingersoll? Is it Lockwood?
Ingersoll Lockwood, yep.
In which he has the last president, which is Trump, the last president. We don't know. Maybe the last good president, that's for sure. But and then we also have Baron Trump, right? The Adventures of Baron Trump, and these were both written in the 1800s. And accordingly, John Trump, who is his uncle and his namesake, that's his middle name, acquired the work of Tesla, who Tesla was allegedly involved in time travel.
Yep. Tesla was definitely involved in time travel. But I have a different theory. When the Mandela effect was coined by Fiona Broom, who is a paranormal researcher and investigator, this is the exact same time that they ramped up Fermilab, the first collider out in Illinois. Lord. And they ramped it up and they shut it down just as fast.
Illinois.
Yeah, it was the large collider. And from that point, that's when Fiona was like, I thought he was dead. I knew he was dead. So what I think took place, it's just a theory, that when we ramp up these colliders, we create these cracks and explosions that affect not only our timeline, but the timelines that are near us. Mm-hmm. And then when we bring them back together again, when you shut it down and it goes back, there's a gap. And what happens is people born from the beginning of time up until 2000 and whatever remember the cornucopia on the Fruit of the Looms. That's because that's where we are at this point, but the ending of it is now from a different timeline, and they don't have the cornucopia. So we're just continuing on a separate. So if A and B are together, we're getting the beginning of A and the end in the last portion of B. Now on the reverse of that, people on the B timeline are going, when the hell do we get a cornucopia?
Right.
They're getting the same Mandela effect, but they're getting
or what
reciprocal.
happened with the Monopoly Man.
Yeah.
Or the
So
Bernstein Bears.
right. And it's really interesting the correlation between black-eyed children and some other interdimensional beings, where large explosions that would cause problems on an atomic level,
Mhm.
like in West Virginia and around the world. Each university has a smaller version of the collider, and the correlation between black-eyed children sightings and going on and where the colliders are, it's like a straight line. You can just go
Yeah, I
boom,
was
boom.
when I was
Wow.
held in Illinois, I researched all of this stuff, and I was 45 minutes from Fermilab. That's why I know exactly where it is, because
Yeah.
I had picked a virtual address, which was actually in St. Charles. And then when I looked to see where the Fermilab was, it's in St. Charles.
But I have some information at the Black-Eyed Kids.
Okay.
Apparently, some of them may be the children of like the Men in Black types who are then associated with these military and deep underground bases. And then,
Mhm.
as children sometimes do, they want to explore. Sometimes they wander up to the surface, and they've been instructed, if you ever get lost on the surface, find an adult, ask them to use a telephone, call this phone number, we'll come get you. And that's why all these people are running into black-eyed children and be like, can you let me in? Can I use your phone? And they're like, no, get away from me. Get off my porch, kid. You're creeping me out. And the kid's like, but then that's where people will report, they'll call a number, and then like some people come and take away the kids, or maybe they get their minds wiped a lot of times and they don't even remember the transaction. But
This
apparently
never happened.
that's one origin of the black-eyed kids, is what I've been told.
Oh.
Yeah. And episode 11 on my podcast, Third Eye Live, is all Penny L.A. Shepherd, and she goes through
And
and
how did you do that?
details your connection.
11.
How did we get
How
it?
did you make episode 11? How did you
Number
have me
11.
on episode? How did you do that?
You were my guest, and if you don't remember that, you
No.
missed it.
She listed like 11 from
I
right?
remember you said, I said, hey, of course it's episode 11.
Mhm.
Yes. I thought it was very interesting that it was Agent X11 and it was
Yeah.
episode 11. There's no such thing as coincidences. We all know that.
No, there
Maybe
are
it's
no such
synchronicity
things.
for a reason. Maybe that was a message sent out into the ether. I always like to say, stay strong with people. Your best thing to do is meditate at least 5 minutes a day. More if you can. It's going to make your life a lot better. And always put a white golden bubble of the power of the Lord, whoever your God is, white golden light that surrounds and protects you. And as an added touch, I always put mirror on the outside so I can see what's going on, but they can't see what's coming in. Yeah.
I like that. Brian, any final thoughts? Other Brian Solarby?
Yeah, I mean, I like the protection methods that Brian Bowden here is advocating, and 100%. And yeah, I'm always a big fan of just referring people to the armor of God.
Yep.
And people, please, wish us well in the struggle against the banking system and the powers that be, so that we can unlock funds for the highest, greatest good of all and concerned.
We are definitely praying for that. Brian, where can people find you? Brian Solarby.
You can reach me directly on Facebook. Add my nickname there, Solarby, on the screen. It distinguishes me from all the other Brian sayings on there. Also, I've got fulldisclosure.network and fulldisclosure.live. We got information about our live conference series events and also our upcoming platform and news of what's going on in the disclosure movement.
Excellent. Brian with a Y, where can people find you? Why? Because
You
we
can
love
find
you.
me in most social media prison and on my show every Wednesday from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. It's at my profile. So at symbol BRYANBOWDEN. Subscribe to that. You get everything I do. I'm no longer promoting 15 different sites or channels. No, it's me. And we're almost finished with season 1. And there's a lot of people, including people in this panel, that will be getting asked to be a guest on the next. If we make it through this season, I'd love to have people on. I love to promote, and I like when people promote themselves. It's not about monetization; it's about getting the message out. And there's so many. I'm trying to get David on, but I think I have a better shot finding the Pope.
Pretty much. David is the Pope.
Yes.
And Jen, where can people find you?
I'm on X at The Nerd in Charge, or you can find my book on Amazon, Marketing is Mind Control.
And you can also find her on AgentX11, and she is now a co-host on Awake Nation, on the Awake Nation News as well. We are doing the Awake Nation News from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. That's Eastern Time, and then Awake Nation from 8 to 10 with David Zublik, and we have some very impactful guests. Joan Renee, where can people find you?
You can find me here on AgentX11. You can find me on the Awake Nation on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And you can also find me on X, Joan Renee 27. And I just wanted to thank both of you for the discussion that you had, because I think people watching this got a lot of good information about how to take care of themselves for all of the junk that they're throwing at us right now.
Yes, I thank you both too, because the banking information, the information on how to spiritually protect yourself, the information on the health information. I mean, these were like things I didn't anticipate, but just wonderful, wonderful information. I thank you both for that. Just amazing. And for those of you, we will be covering this same topic again and again, because you know what? It's a converging timeline, and this never happened. Okay. So thank you so much for joining us. And my name is Peniella Shepard. I am Agent X11. So if you don't know who 11 is from Stranger Things, well, I was Mrs. Stranger. That was my last name, Xenos. And just a complicated past, which I'm still trying to figure out. Please research everything. We don't know. I'm very fond of saying I pulled a Schultz, Charles Schultz from Hogan's Heroes. Was it Charles Schultz? No, just Schultz, Sergeant Schultz. I know nothing. And the older I get, I know nothing. I know a little about a lot and a lot about a little, and that's about it. So research everything. Be kind to one another. It's just difficult in the chaotic, environment that we find ourselves in. Try to find love in your heart and spread that love if you can. It's just we have people pulling us in other different directions. I personally pray, and I have a personal contact with God and with Jesus Christ, who is my Savior. And without that, I would be lost. Thank you so much for joining us. Please join us for Awake Nation. And we are Monday through Friday on the David Zubik channel, also on the Agent X11 channel. This will be posting forthwith. We are live on X. So thank you so very much for joining us. Unfortunately, we're out of time. So we are out of here. Shepard out.
Renee out.
Jen out.
Solar be out.
Bowden out.
Goodbye for today from Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist. We post new episodes daily. Check out our true crime episodes Wednesdays and Fridays.
Don't forget to watch our main show, David Zubik's Awake Nation, on the David Zubik channel on Rumble, live Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern.